And welcome back, everyone.
Gee,
All right, so
welcome back.
Yeah, man, how you been?
Good. It's a productive week.
Yeah, busy.
Yeah. Busy is good. It's kind of weird when you're not doing anything. I mean, is it kind of like a hustle mentality these days now with everyone?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think when you're busy throughout the week, you can really celebrate your days off. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I tend to try to have one day that's super productive on my own, and the other day I just veg out and watch TV. Pretty much.
Yeah. You gotta have that rest day.
You do.
Yeah.
Being a parent, though, how's that rest day? Is that non-existent?
It's there, here and there. Every situation is different. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
I'm so blessed that I have grandparents that love to watch
man.
the baby.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't take that lightly. Like I'm super
Man,
blessed with that.
That is definitely nice to have.
Yeah, so if I do need to have a couple hours sleep, just call them up, and they're like, most times they're willing to.
There you go.
Yeah, so
There you go.
gotta continue that line. So I'm excited to watch my grandchildren. And
For
just
sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well, today we wanted to talk about a subject that's near and dear to our heart.
near and dear.
Hey, yeah, fashion.
Yep.
The fashions,
Near
right?
and dear. Yep.
Near and dear. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I mean, how would you define being fashionable or stylish?
Fashionable. I feel like there are tides on the timeline.
Okay.
And everything, everything pops up, and then that's what's there.
Yeah.
That's what's popular.
Yeah.
And I feel like that just takes over everything.
For sure. What's
Like,
trending?
Yeah, and one of the big trends that I just think about is Jinko jeans. I mean, just
How many pairs did you have?
I didn't use
I was
them.
gonna say, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you go from girl pants to those?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
polar opposite,
Exactly.
right? You're the
Confirmed. Yeah. No.
skinny jean man going to
Skinny
Jinkos
jean.
here, but yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. When I think about just fashion and style in general, there are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So someone that's fashionable, I would say I'd kind of define it personally as somebody that's just into fashion, somebody that is into the trends, that knows the different seasons, maybe can kind of predict color palettes and kind of see what's going to be hitting just based off of whatever's happening in the fashion world. They can kind of predict what's going to be the next big thing. That's somebody that I would say is fashionable. Somebody that maybe might be concentrated on brands and what these brands are doing and bringing forth. Versus someone that's stylish would just be somebody that knows how to put things together.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think? Are you more fashionable or stylish?
I think I'll be fashionable in my own right.
Okay.
Not so much fashionable, but I do have things in mind where I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the next big thing. This is gonna be the next big thing. And I don't know, maybe it does happen, maybe it doesn't. But for music, I'm gonna go off on a small tangent, but music wise, like I feel like when I hear someone and the way that they sing with the production that's mixed with it,
Okay.
that just tells me, okay, they're gonna get big.
Okay.
And I've confirmed this with Jack Harlow.
Yeah.
With the first album that I heard from him when it first released, I was like, this guy's gonna get big someday.
For sure.
I didn't realize he got super huge. That was one artist that came out that I was like, that confirmed my thing.
Absolutely.
Another one was Daniel Caesar.
Daniel Caesar's awesome.
One of the first songs he came out, it was a collaborative song, and I don't think he had an album yet. He probably had an EP. I think it was an EP.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I heard his voice, I was like, and his style, the way he sound, I was like, this guy's gonna get huge one day. And then he got big after a couple
I remember hearing the Cyanide. I think that was the first song that I heard of his.
Oh,
And
really?
Yeah. After
Okay.
that, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be good.
Yeah. So when I think of fashion, there's little things that I see that are like, okay, that's gonna be the next big thing.
Gotcha.
But right now, off the bat, I was thinking baggy. I mean, baggy's kind of in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, right?
Weird.
How it goes full circle.
Yeah.
For sure.
There are some people right now that are doing this, but I think the next big thing, from my understanding, would be tucked in.
Oh, really?
I think that's gonna come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
yeah.
What about you though? Are you on that wave? You tucking your shirts in?
for the dad? the dad style a little bit.
You tuck in your aloha shirts when you gotta be professional, or
Not you. Sometimes. Yeah.
Got it.
But even now, I've tried it a few times where I just tucked in like regular casual. Yeah.
I got you, man.
It's totally a dad vibe.
I got too much of a belly to do that.
There are certain shirts that help you frame it nicely.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. All right.
Maybe we don't go into details.
This is not an ad.
Not a sponsorship. Yeah. What about you, bro? Fashionable or stylish?
You know, let's see. A little bit of both. I would say for me, I would probably think more on the stylish end, mainly because I've definitely followed trends throughout my life. You know, hopefully we can get into some of our fashion evolution in this podcast. But I've definitely followed trends. So I'd say, you know, knowing what would be fashionable based off of what I was seeing and absorbing, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is just, you know, when you think about what are you doing with these clothing, like how do you put it together, right? So I think that's in a way where I think I would probably put myself more in the stylish category than the fashionable category.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When I think about fashion, the word and the context behind it, I always think like high-end brands.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's right to do.
No,
but,
absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I always feel like that fashionable would be tethered to expensive things or things like that.
Yeah.
But I've never really found it fashionable.
Oh, well, you know, it's...
I mean, that's all preference.
Absolutely. You know, it's not for everyone. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, think about your history. When you were growing up, like who dressed you?
Oh, easy, my mom.
Your mom.
Yep. And
Gotcha.
I think this one thing that I've adopted from her, just going into like adult life, was that one of the things she mentioned was always look presentable when you go out.
Okay, I like that.
Always look presentable, and it's not in a so every time I went out, I always had to look proper.
Gotcha.
I didn't have to look like stylish or whatever. I needed a clean shirt.
Okay.
It needed to be clean, and hair should be somewhat styled.
Okay.
Maybe not styled, but just not messy.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for myself, I just take that with me, and I'm a big believer in look good, feel good.
Got it.
Yeah,
Who's more fashionable, mom or dad?
Probably mom.
Yeah.
It's funny because every time when I was growing up, she would always tell stories about my grandma always making their clothes.
Oh, interesting.
So back
Okay.
then, it wasn't mass produced.
Yeah.
But grandma was she made their clothes, and so for them, for my mom, she always told me stories of grandma being very fashionista and always, taking them to get pictures done because she just liked the visual aspect of things. Yeah,
gotcha.
so really interesting connection there.
That is. I know.
Yeah.
I remember you shared prior that your mom was really into accessories, jewelry, and whatnot, right?
Yeah,
Shoes and stuff.
And I love her view of it because she's not chained to it in a sense. She knows when to get it, and she's not in it for the outside, approval or whatever. She just likes nice things.
Got it.
What about you, man? Growing up,
who dressed me? I want to see my mom. My mom as well. I believe my mom dressed me as well. And if I were to put someone who's more fashionable or stylish, she would probably be my mom. Mom definitely still loves shopping. I think that she's kind of had the same hairstyle for the last 40 years. But at the same time, like I think she's definitely she's not afraid to try things in regards to her fashion. My dad is pretty much tried and true, right?
Yeah.
Growing up is actually really funny because I got old pictures of my dad and he was a hippie.
Oh,
Yeah, he had long hair.
Bell bottoms?
No, man, he had like denim cutoff shorts, probably a little bit too short there, Dad. But he just looked like the quintessential 70s dude.
Yeah.
Mom was always really fashionable with what she wore. Dressing me, honestly, it wasn't about name brands, and that's something I'm hoping if I ever have children, I don't think I want to raise them putting them in brands per se and having them just get accustomed to that because they grow up around that, then there becomes a different level of expectation as they get older.
That's exactly what I was thinking, bro. Like I wouldn't want them to associate that as the norm or
for sure.
I don't want them to think that that's what is supposed to be used.
So
you know what I mean?
No baby J's for Zozo.
Oh no. I mean, there's people that are genuinely just hype beasts and they have like collections of, and that will buy J's for their sons and their daughters. I think that's cool because that's their passion.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell. For me, I think it would be good to just do it out of passion, right?
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
not, as long as that's being communicated to the child, then I think it's cool.
It translates pretty well when you're taking photographs, but sometimes I cringe when I see the family all in one fit.
Dude.
And I'm like, ooh, all right.
Yeah.
That's an expensive.
Little too much. That's a sponsored ad at that point.
Right. I mean, I get it if it's like a Christmas picture, but when you're walking around Pro Ridge, I'm like,
oh, no,
all right, guys, take it easy.
Yeah.
Take it easy with that.
No. Yeah. That's not a thing.
Yeah. Do you remember school clothes shopping?
That's funny. Yeah, because every time the school started, prior to that, we'd go to like JCPenney or something.
Yeah, man.
And just be like, hey, just pick out 2 or 3 new things.
Did you get to pick it out, or did your parents pick it out?
We picked it out, and then they would get the approval.
The approval, right?
Yeah. They knew better, I guess.
They're like, hey, Ray, it's kind of book here.
Yeah.
Your color palette's not not there yet, friend.
Yeah. Or they would say it's not book at all. You gotta get something.
Filipinos in the bright colors.
Hey, let's go.
Hey.
Bright yellow and brown, baby.
Hey, man. Purple matches with everything.
What about you guys
I heard this acronym that Pinoy is pink is nice on you.
What in the world? That takes me back to like 7th, 8th grade, where they would just have pink polos. And I don't know. Maybe Kanye made it popular. I don't know.
Yeah, Kanye got love for the PI.
Yeah.
Growing up, school shopping. Let's see. Yeah, I remember it. I remember that because shoes were the most expensive, my sister and I were allowed 1 pair of shoes.
Nice.
And then you kind of had to build around that, right? So they kind of gave us a budget. I don't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't anything too crazy, but it was kind of like, okay, if you want to spend money on this, then you're going to get less of that, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the way we did it. And, I remember that kind of being a thing. Do you remember the age though where you kind of like started to pick out your own clothing and dress yourself?
Yeah. Well, before that, I noticed you said, you pick your shoes out because that's the most expensive, and you build around it.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you today? Like how you style your?
Yes and no. Well, actually, that's a good question. We can definitely get into sneakers, but just one thing that I noticed, I'm not a collector. I know there's a lot of sneakerheads out there, but for me, I think the mentality of picking one thing that kind of matches with everything stuck with me through the years. So I'm more about finding something staple, like when it comes to my shoes, that's going to match with all of my different outfits, right?
Gotcha.
But how old were you when you really started carrying?
When I started carrying, maybe about, I want to say 4th, 5th grade.
Okay.
There was a Converse in Waikele.
Oh yeah,
there
still
there
is.
is.
Yeah.
But the one by Discovery Zone on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, where next to Skechers or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was like one of my favorite stores because the shoes there were just, I don't know, the style of like early 2000s, late 90s. It was. The materials were different. I feel like in the timeline, there was like those puffy plastic, like how the Nike signs are, they have that puff plastic. It was like that, and the style was just different.
It was.
And I think that had to do with a lot of how production was.
For sure.
Materials and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're coming back too, that kind of style.
Well, what's interesting, that you mentioned Converse, that's probably one of the only brands that stayed tried and true to their formula. Like they have not, when it comes to just the overall quality of the product, it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
For better or worse, right? They're not the most comfortable shoes, but they haven't changed the design. For them, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Right.
Yeah. You were a Chuck guy growing up?
Talking about Converses, ish.
Okay.
They were the staple before Vans. For myself. Yeah.
Yep.
Because then the Authentics were like high school. But what about you?
Age-wise,
yeah. When you just were conscious about,
I think pretty young. Honestly, I think pretty young. I remember maybe, I want to say 2nd, 3rd grade, around that time is when we started like being able to just pick out what we were going to wear.
Yeah.
I got a lot of things gifted to me. I was pretty lucky to have pretty stylish relatives that would be like, Jay would like this, and like be able to get me stuff. A lot of things we didn't have access to on the Big Island. So I know growing up, like every Christmas gift seemed to be from like HIC or TNC, and would just be some type of like surf T-shirt or something like that. But that was really big for me back then. But I remember because, again, we didn't have a lot of access to that. I just thought it was cool that I had shirts that no one else had. I think that's kind of when I started noticing it, where like you didn't want to have the same clothes as other people.
What did you guys even have in Big Island?
Macy's. Well, Liberty House. It was Liberty House before, right? I remember if we wanted to go school shopping, if we weren't going to Oahu, we would drive over to Hilo, which is about 2 hours away.
That was the only mall?
Yeah, that was probably the only place that you could get decent shopping on the Big Island.
Wow.
So we did a lot of school shopping there as well, where you could get, good pair of sneakers as well as, just some clothes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty young. I remember wanting things where, again, talking about name brands and stuff.
Yeah.
I think even though I wasn't raised with that, I think just being influenced by brands kind of caught me early. And I remember that probably drove my parents crazy.
Really?
Because they're like, what do you mean you want to buy $50 shoes? Which was insane at the time, right? They're like, I mean, now, yeah, but back then.
True.
Having a name brand pair of shoes at that young of an age, it definitely hit my parents' wallet pretty hard.
Well, in that age, what even influences you?
Other kids, right? So at that point, like again, I think you're too young to really process what's going in your head. You just remember wanting to be different potentially. It's so funny. You have different mentalities where sometimes people want to dress exactly the same. Like, oh, you got that? I want that. For me, I always just wanted stuff that everyone else didn't have.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's kind of where that stylish component comes in, right? Where, I already noticed from a young age that I really did care about the things that I was wearing. Yeah. And I know that, I don't know. I mean, I wish I could pull up some old photos. I don't know how great my outfits were back then, but I remember thinking like, oh, this would match with this. And again, it was probably like purple and turquoise. But I mean, that's neither here nor there.
That's so funny because like purple and turquoise.
Yeah.
I remember going to Ross, and I don't know what brand it was, but there are these baby blue basketball baggy shorts.
Yep. Carolina, bro. It was probably UNC.
Maybe I was a fan back then, but I bought them. And I just remember in middle school you have uniforms. Yep. So you can only be different with your.
What color was your top?
There's gray and there's black.
Oh, you could match anything with that.
Yeah. Okay. But it's funny because I would come in with like a gray shirt and those baby blue shorts. Man. I thought I was cool.
I know, and you had your red sneakers on too, right?
Guys, like, I'll be too wild.
Ray was just like, I'm doing something here.
Don't mind me.
Nice. Do you remember? Like, that's a good question though. Like, what were you influenced by at that young of an age?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm on the same boat with you with making sure I was the only one that had that. I think that's what sparked that baby blue purchase.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Weird enough to say. Even if it was like maybe not my style, if no one had it, I thought that was cool in a sense, and that stuck with me throughout my life. Definitely. Yeah. Because even with music, I think we talked about this, but I would find bands on this website called Pure Volume. Shouts out to anyone who knows that. Pure Volume. They would like post all the alternative pop punk bands up and coming.
Yeah.
Another example of having that intuition of this guy's gonna be popular is dance. No, not dance. Man, you know these guys. It's the guy that why am I blanking? It's the guy that sounds like Fall Out Boy.
Panic at the Disco.
Yep. When they first came out on Pure Volume.
Oh yeah.
I was like, these guys are gonna blow up
for sure.
Sure enough, like within a year or so, they just blew up. Then again, he was under Fall Out Boy because Fall Out Boy was the one who kind of put them on. But anyway, yeah. Shoot, I lost my train of thought.
No.
Influences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Not to me. As long as no one had it, that was like a good check.
Do you think because music's been such a huge part of your life, do you think when you were growing up, you kind of looked at what musicians were wearing, the styles that they had?
Oh yeah, I mean later down the line
Yeah.
it got different.
Gotcha.
For like elementary,
Yeah.
intermediate, that was kind of the process.
Yeah.
And then it started to be influenced by a wider group
see.
of people. Yeah,
I see.
musicians for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always thought it's interesting when you have uniforms where, yeah, I mean, you don't really have the opportunity to kind of dress that much different other than maybe, your shorts or like your shoes, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so growing up, I never was in a school that had a uniform.
Yeah.
So with that said, people put together some pretty crazy stuff.
Did they?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it, I think, mainly just in Hawaii at that age, you're kind of just really influenced by the surf industry. So
Yeah.
a lot of people just wearing surf shorts and slippers.
Did you do the puka shells?
Puka shell necklace? No. No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't. Nah, man.
Are you even from Hawaii, bro?
Did you?
No.
Are you even from Hawaii, bro? Reverse Uno there. How long did it take you to get ready in the morning for school?
For school, no, it was quick. I mean, the uniforms made it quick.
Yeah.
And at some point in my life, I was just like, in terms of intermediate, it was just, it wasn't too long.
Got it.
I don't even know what I did. And LA Looks, bro. LA Looks,
Oh.
the gel. I think
Yeah.
that was in style back
Yeah.
then. Spiky hair a little bit.
I know LA Looks, and then it got more into like the paste, right?
Paste,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
man.
They started going hard on
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
There was the spike one. I forget. It was like the black and yellow squeeze bottle. and that one,
I know what you're talking about.
And it was funny because
I
it was
had
like
that.
it was a white paste, and unless you put it in your hair really well, your hair was like super white too, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
God.
but it was super strong.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
for
hold
sure.
is strong.
Let's talk about style evolution, man. I'm
Yeah.
curious, where you started, and then maybe kind of going up to the current,
Yeah. So up until intermediate and going into high school was different. Like we talked about, now you're getting into more different things. You're starting to discover what you like and what you don't like. Bands and music, pop punk, heavily influenced that. And so going back to the skinny jeans, the emo scene, bro, that was like a huge portion in high school.
How long did you sit in that?
Maybe not huge, but maybe a year and a half, 2.5 years.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, but Dashboard was getting big.
Yeah.
Just the emo scene was kind of big in my head. So those guys really influenced me.
What was the uniform? What was the emo uniform for you?
Baseball tees was a bit. Baseball tees meaning the
Raglans. Yep.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Okay.
With pop punk and I didn't do too much of the studs. I did have some at some point. Studded belts. Yeah. I mean,
That's
you had to.
standard
Yeah,
issue,
you
man.
had to own them at some point. Yeah, and then I had like that army hat where it's like more squarish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was a staple in my collection
For sure.
because no one was wearing them. That was,
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
What about you? I mean, that was up until high school.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
oh,
before high school, do you remember what you were wearing?
No,
Not that too much?
Not too much.
High school, I'm assuming, didn't have a uniform then. That's kind of when you were
No.
able to really.
Really, yeah, kind of extend
explore.
explore. But
sure, for
it
sure.
wasn't too nuts. I think later down the line, are we going up till?
Oh, you can. Yeah. I mean, well, okay. So after the emo, how would you say? Where'd your style go from there?
I just got tired of skinny jeans, bro.
Hey, man, you're like, hey, these are getting kind of tight.
You know what's funny? It wasn't actually that. It was more people were starting to do it.
Got it.
That's what drives my style.
You know
JL.
how wild you are if you were the only guy wearing girls' jeans at the time, ahead of the curve. People are like, "That's Ray."
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's wearing women's jeans.
Women's
right now.
jeans, yeah.
There you go. They're like,
But
"Hey
they
man,
didn't
what
know.
cut is that?" And you're like, "Don't worry.
Don't
about
worry.
it."
Don't ask.
Were they all like ripped up too, or
I had a few.
Yeah.
It's so
Standard
funny 'cause-
black?
Standard black. Yeah. I mean, you got different colors. It's funny because like you'll know if it's girl jeans if the rip is above your thigh. Those are like no go because
Gotcha.
they'll be like those are girl jeans. Yeah.
Ah,
It's
okay.
got to be knee and below.
All right. Fair enough.
So I thought about that stuff, but that's funny because now I think about it, that's what drove or drives my path, I guess.
Yeah. So once everybody's on that wave,
yeah,
time to move on.
Yeah, the same thing with bands, bro.
Yeah,
They start
we
getting
talked about
bigger.
that.
Yeah,
We talked
did.
about that.
What
We
about
did.
you, man? What's your evolution looking like?
Let's see. I mean, so early on, like I said, I think surf and skate culture was kind of a big thing. Funny thing about it is I never surfed. I never surfed at all. But I remember growing up, these surf brands were just really popular, mainly because they had graphic tees, right? So graphic tees has always been heavy staple for me. T-shirt and shorts growing up. The funny thing about it, I was never really a slipper guy, even to this day. Like, unless I'm going to the beach, like I'm always wearing shoes, and people think that's weird. Like, why don't you wear slippers? I'm like, nah.
Do you do Crocs?
I'll do Crocs. Recently, like I think the Soleils that came out, and I got a couple of classic clogs that I've been running with, but that was kind of a recent decision. But prior to that, slippers was strictly around the house. Maybe if I got to run to Safeway or something like that, but most times I'm leaving the house, I'm always in shoes. So yeah, shoes were always kind of a part of it. But when I talk about like that surf skate culture, it was all skate shoes growing up.
Oh yeah. Name the brands, bro.
Airwalk.
Let's go.
Yep, Airwalk was big, man. Vans, of course.
Lakai's.
Yep, Lakai's.
DC,
Circa. These were going to be later. So when I was younger, it was mainly Airwalk and Vans.
Vans.
But as these new brands started popping up, yeah, that was big. Like the big bulky shoes, right? Fat tongues on everything. Yeah. So it was always that kind of going through everything. And again, funny, not a surfer, not a skater, but definitely influenced by the style.
Yeah.
And I think the brand wise, we're always within that industry, like that, action sports industry. And then once I hit high school, I think things started to change because I went from one small school, got into a feeder school that was much bigger, then you just see more people, different styles. And then that's kind of when you start realizing like, oh, again, I can either dress like everybody else or I can kind of do my own thing. I remember being super influenced by me. That's why I asked you about music. I watched a lot of MTV when I was growing up. I don't know if that was a good thing but I remember watching videos and thinking like, oh, that's really cool how these guys dress. And mainly in the 90s, it was all about gangster rap, right? So I went through a really heavy Dickies phase, like super heavy Dickies phase. I was doing Chucks and Dickies for years.
Chucks and Dickies.
I would have the really baggy pants. I think I might have been a size 28, and I was probably wearing like a 36 with the belt cinched. Everybody remembers that. And if you wanted shorts, then you just cut your old pants. And they were always definitely below the knee. Right?
Yeah.
Funny how now, right? You're like, oh, it's got to be like 5 inches above the knee.
Yo, that's me, bro.
That's
reversed.
The thing. Yeah, you're like, oh man, these are way too long.
Way too long.
I need to see the hair above my kneecap. But back then, man, you weren't cool unless your shorts were like halfway down your calf, right? Yeah. High socks. I wore a lot of slides. Man, I thought I was a little thug,
bro.
Honestly, thought I was a little thug, and that kind of was my high school aesthetic. And it was funny that I pretty much lived in that for a minute.
What did your parents say about it?
My parents are so cool that
Shouts out.
I think for them they just kind of wanted to allow me to have self-expression. I think for them they was just more like, you can dress like this, you better not act like this. The moment you start acting wild, talking crazy, but for them it was like, it wasn't hurting anybody. At the time, I think they were afraid, if anything, that it looked like gang affiliated.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But again, growing up on the Big Island, not a lot of context, right? So you just see things and you want to emulate it, but you don't really have context to what it represents elsewhere, right?
Right.
Probably pretty sure I got into some trouble with what I was wearing back in the day if I were anywhere other than Kailua Kona on the Big Island, right? But yeah, that was kind of my high school fit. Really baggy, super baggy.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college, I don't know, for whatever reason, kind of just hit different, where that look was kind of going more out, and it was more towards like, okay, a little bit more preppy, a lot more collared shirts, a lot more button downs,
Yeah.
a lot more jackets. I went to school in the mainland, so that was the first time that I was ever able to layer.
Yeah,
We've
that's
talked about this,
crazy.
man.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm really bummed out about with Hawaii.
Oh,
that we don't get a
yeah.
chance to layer.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
My favorite weather in the world is sunny outside and about 50 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Best, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
You wear a nice jacket and you put together, you got, your beanie on, whatever. Go inside, you can take it off, but you don't get a chance to do that here. You're going to look wild.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, like, as you're talking about this and just, like, being able to dress up the way that you want to because of the weather, it's just kind of, I'm just kind of realizing how people don't understand how much we love fashion.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Hawaii's kind of got a uniform, right?
Yeah,
we do. It's super cash. Even when we say like, okay, like business casual, like it's aloha shirt and slacks, right?
Yep.
But for most people, that's like really dressing up. You go to weddings here, you go to any type of pretty formal event, you always got one uncle.
Oh yeah,
in a red schooner, right?
100%.
Even if you could be at a black tie event, you got one guy running a aloha shirt for sure, because that's gonna be formal, and that's just cultural. That's a cultural thing here. Nothing wrong with that, but I think it is a very unique experience where we don't have a lot of opportunities to really dress up, mainly because of just the weather here.
Yeah, which is kind of sad because I just love dressing up.
Yeah.
I don't get to do it all the time because I feel like I don't know, maybe I should, but it's just fun dressing up.
It is. What's dressing up for you though?
Like layering.
Okay.
These days I hardly wear shoes now because I think when you're single, it's fun because you have a kind of like a reason to dress up. You're trying to look good for someone else versus yourself.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But these days just kind of different because
thank you for admitting that, by the way.
Oh,
most people are like, I dress for me. I'm like, no, you don't.
No. I don't think that's the majority.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's kind of different, and now that I'm married and I have a wife and I have really no one to dress up for, I still do like it. It's just I'm too lazy to put it on.
Got it, man. I got you. You call it peacocking when you are single and trying to attract someone else. Yeah. So, you got your feathers out and like, look at me.
Yeah.
I got you.
And like what takes you, you don't even think about the time it takes to put on a fit because, you probably put effort and it's going to do some damage.
Oh,
some damage.
Break some necks here. Yeah. What about brands? Like, do you remember any of the brands that you were really into growing up?
I mean, the ones that I think of is just Nike.
Okay.
Nike, Converse.
Yeah.
Mostly shoes. Weird, yeah.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because I think it also depends on what you can afford.
Yeah. Fair.
So like all the bigger brands, it just wasn't. I mean, even like Stussy was kind of too much for what I could afford. I didn't want to pay for that. But I mean, I just had a tier where
I got you.
I could afford and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that kind of directed what my style was as well.
Because you were in the emo scene for a minute, where were you getting your clothes though?
That's funny because they don't really have name brands.
Yeah.
Except like Vans is the biggest one.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah, they were mostly graphic tees. I wasn't much of a graphics tee person. I was more of a blank material type fit.
For sure. Fit and feel.
Yeah, fit and feel.
Yeah. You're definitely on the we talked about it earlier, but you're definitely more on the stylish end because you care more about how things fit and how they feel.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that has to do a lot with like my body type. And I think that should for everyone because everyone has a different body type, and a certain type of fit will complement the size of your calves and how it tapers down or whatever
it.
it is, or the size of your waist, and maybe how high you use your pants. I mean, the waistline is, right. But yeah, so more for myself, it was more of a how it fit. When we talk about like business cash for like weddings or whatever, Hawaii is aloha shirt, slacks with slippers, right?
Yep.
For myself, the fit gotta be like, it's gotta be sleek and like slim, and the slippers cannot be locals. It's gotta be
Gotta be Scots.
gotta be Scots. Yeah, or higher end locals, whatever it is.
If it's leather, you know you're good, right?
Yeah. That's the one. But yeah, always emphasize fit. So even with like aloha shirts, I would get the slim fit if they have, and I would have the back brought in. Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't have like a fluffy back.
Okay.
It's just like tapered nicely.
Yeah,
So
man.
it looks sleek. They don't come like that. They don't. Like that.
Yeah. A lot of times when you see things that fit, I mean, and that's a big misconception too, right? Where people are like, oh, I can't wear that. I'm like, no, you just got to find the right sizing, and you got to make sure that it's proportioned to your body.
Yeah.
Like you can have any body type and still find something flattering if you find the right fit for yourself. And I think
Right.
that's something that's really interesting, where I've noticed my experience. I mean, we can talk about our personal experiences with just clothing in general, but my experience growing up, a lot of times people just thought name brand, and if something is expensive, therefore
Then
it's
it must be-
stylish. It must be
yeah.
stylish, right? But it didn't fit them correctly, and it didn't look good just because it had a brand name on it, or because it had a logo or whatever. It wasn't the right fit for them. You know? And I think maybe the older I got, the more I realized, like, hey, that's a really important component, that things fit correctly.
What made you realize that?
Well, I mean, I've been
Or you just look at people and you look dumb.
yeah. I mean, but I think just being in, so a lot of my adult life has been in retail, and then before the job that I got right now, a lot of it was just in clothing. So because of that, and just my experiences with my business and whatnot, I've been around clothing a good portion of my life, and it's just kind of interesting watching the different trends that come through and how people follow those trends, but again, not pay attention to the way that they're fitting on their body. More just like, oh, this is cool right now. Absolutely, you can make it work, but you got to know your sizing, and you got to be willing to potentially have alterations. That's another big one too.
You know what? I think a lot of people don't know that it's possible to like take in or to hem.
Absolutely.
I just don't. Maybe it's not that important to them, which is totally fine. But at the same time, in my head, I'm just like, that would look nicer on you if it was tapered, or that would look nicer on you if it was hemmed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So what for yourself, when you think of like brands, do you have an affinity for them now versus fit?
Yes and no. The yes part of it, and we've talked a lot, and I won't go into it, just kind of like my love for certain brands, just because mainly the story behind the brand. So I do have a couple of brands that I've supported throughout the years because of that, and because I've just been engulfed in streetwear my majority of my life. There are certain brands that I'm very loyal to. But I am realizing how important it is to kind of just have like a uniform mentality, where this is the look that I'm kind of going for. And, like it's something that I can wear no matter what the season, no matter what the occasion. And, that's where kind of like your staple wear comes in,
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any regrets? Fashion regrets?
Absolutely, dude. For sure. Dressing like a little punk when I was in high school. It is what it is, and I'll be honest with you, like sometimes the baggy stuff is really funny now that I see it's really coming back. But I remember back in the day, like I just thought I was so cool, and there's some regrets there, the overly baggy stuff. But I'm trying to think some other regrets that I might have had. I think not knowing color palettes was a big one. I think I got more into that, and I'm really into like more of a muted color palette now, but I think everybody asks me why I wear black all the time, and I think because when I was younger, I just wore a lot of mismatched colors.
Really?
Yeah. And again, the wanting to be different maybe aligned with me putting together things that I thought were really cool, clashing patterns.
You sure you're not Pinoy?
Oh, possibly. Pink is not nice on me. But yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that being a thing. And then now kind of really discovering what colors work well with me, what's going to be something that no matter, again, what the occasion is, I can put together. I feel like a lot more confident with that now.
Yeah. I mean, the older we get, you just
definitely. But when I say regrets, I think my biggest regret is more of the financial aspect of how much I've spent on clothing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So like, because I've been around it, following trends, like you'll see something and again, you're like, oh, cool, I want to try this out. And then for whatever reason, again, like I'm sure you can make it work. There were times where it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And whether it was just trying to find the perfect pair of pants or, a sneaker silhouette that I really was into, or maybe, like just figuring out the sizing with my t-shirts and realizing that different brands, different styles have different fits, I think I spent a lot of money trying to find those things, and now I'm at a place where I kind of know exactly what works for me. And, I feel confident about that, but it took some money getting there for sure. A lot of wasted money, a lot of donations to Goodwill.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I always think about it, like how much money I spent and then you just donating it away. I mean, I'm happy somebody else is getting some fly stuff, but yeah, man, for sure. Now, now my thing is, if it's something that I don't want anymore, I try to sell it online.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sell, then I'll donate it because try to recoup some of that cost.
Oh yeah. I mean, if a shirt costs $40.
Oh man. Now average now, I want to say average t-shirts, $50-$60 now, average.
Ones that you're spending on.
Just in general. I mean, even some of you look at the price point, most shirts start at $40 now, just t-shirts.
That's nuts.
And then a lot of the shirts that I look at, like, I'm like, whoa, they're like 70. Like, you buy a Kith shirt, it's like $80, dude, for a t-shirt.
I've never bought like a Supreme Kith.
Yeah.
What's that ape one?
Bathing
Ape.
Yep.
Have you owned those?
I have. And again, chasing trends, right? So
sure.
Not a lot of it in my closet now. Some I can't get rid of just because, again, I'm like, oh, I spent this much money on it.
Yeah.
But I probably don't ever want to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What about you? What are some of your regrets?
Probably the tight shirt, loose, baggy pants. Because I was like a pop punk kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
That was probably like my biggest one. The rest I'm cool with.
You're cool with?
Yeah, the rest I'm cool with.
This is documented, folks.
Yeah, this is documented.
We got photos. We got
photos, yeah. The girl pants thing, that was first season until the actual like guy pants that were labeled, I mean, skinny jeans. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Yeah, in terms of like purchasing stuff, I would try to get things that I've never bought anything super expensive until later where quality was at the forefront.
Okay.
So like Levi's jeans or Gap jeans. I think Gap had a line called 1979. And those jeans were like really good quality.
Yeah.
And those were maybe about like $70. It wasn't that bad.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Not too bad. But I do feel like clothes in the past had definitely better quality.
They did.
As they do now.
Yes. We look at fast fashion, right?
Yeah. You know what? It feels so diluted, bro. Honestly. The 990s is just like one of the prime examples in my head right now. Yeah. It's still good, but for the price that they're selling it for, I'm like, ooh, wow. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But even like the old jackets and old long sleeves, I noticed that the weave, certain weaves are not as strong, or the material is not as strong. Yeah. So to sum it up, it just feels diluted in my head.
I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards vintage, because again, fashion and fits, from decades prior were just a little bit better quality, so they've kind of withstood the test of time.
Yeah,
it's funny how that really worn in look is what people want to achieve now, right?
Right.
And it's funny how like they're manufacturing new products to basically have that like worn, right?
Yeah,
just because it's such a popular thing. Where I remember growing up, like for me, as soon as my t-shirts were black and then they started getting kind of faded,
Dormont.
out of there, right?
Weird, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're like, no, I wanted gray.
Yeah,
the more
yeah.
faded, the more comfortable, seemingly.
I have a theory that because brands and companies want to just buy bulk,
Yep.
and they go to these factories, the bigger the factory, the less quality it is. Back in the day when they could only afford when they could afford good things, the factory might be small and very tight knit.
Yep.
That's just a thought of mine.
It's a very valid thought. And to be completely honest with you, I'll be honest, like all of these places, I mean, all of these different companies, they're being manufactured by very specific companies, larger companies. You do your sourcing, and if you kind of follow the trail, you might be like, oh, okay, this is a really niche brand and whatnot. It's all being made at the same place,
Right? Right.
Whenever you see something that seems so similar but might be at a lower tier price point, it's just branding.
Right.
They're being manufactured by the same spots, and you're putting a different tag on it, and now it's $100 more than the other one, just because of the branding. And that's the marketing of it. That's the business of fashion, right?
Yeah. And you can't knock it, because some people will complain like, man, this is the same shirt. You can get the same shirt for $10 versus Givenchy, $300 shirt. But
you were on really early, but just finding a blank that fits, that feels good, it's all the same. So again, you're finding like a raglan that looks and feels good, and then all of a sudden you throw a logo on there, and now that same shirt is $50 more.
Yeah,
it's weird, right? But it's just the genius of marketing, right?
Right. And again, like, you can't knock them because that's the brand that they built, and you're paying for that.
Yep.
And so, you can't knock them, man.
Yeah. You mentioned early when I was talking about like your affinity for brands growing up, and you mentioned all sneakers for the most part, like sneaker companies. Like, what? Talk about your sneaker game growing up, or to where it is right now.
Ooh, yeah. So, I think Chucks were like the beginning of this affinity for shoes, and then Authentics all the way in high school. Vans Authentics.
You got it.
I had a ton of them.
Authentics. I know errors of the lace one. Authentics were the slip-ons or the.
It was the canvas ones. They had a canvas one with the blue lining on the bottom, the sole.
Yeah,
that was like my main one throughout high school, just because I could draw on them and just keep it neutral, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yep. I think after the whole scene, I started getting into like Air Maxes.
Okay.
And then just delved into different styles. So there was the Air Maxes, and then, well, I mean, there's a ton of Air Maxes, right? A ton of them. Roshi's.
I remember those. They brought them back,
They did. It's a different style,
No, it's the same, but I don't know how it's selling. I mean, they were like super early on that Kush, right?
I've never owned one.
Yeah.
But the hype was so big.
Yep.
That was probably the biggest hyped shoe that I know of in the last 10 years.
Yeah. For sure.
Those, actually, I might retract that, because NMD's was huge too. Adidas,
I think the NMD's trumped the Roshis.
Yeah, so those are big too. Had a few pairs of those.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, these days, the most recent one was the 990 V3.
Okay.
And that's kind of like my grail now.
Got it.
Yeah. Just, it's sucks because after I did my second marathon, which I failed the first.
Okay.
I failed the first one.
Okay.
After the first failed marathon, my foot was never the same.
I didn't even know you ran a marathon, by the way.
I wouldn't recommend.
Wait, when was this?
Shoot, I don't remember. But I did the first one.
Okay.
I had bad shoes on.
Okay.
This is the most excruciating pain I have had in my foot. And I was at the 24 mark. 24.
No way. You went all the way to the end.
It was too painful.
No
it was
kidding.
too painful.
Couldn't even walk it though?
No. It was so painful, bro. And then it was kind of shame. Like, I felt shame because there's a trucks that come rolling by and see if anyone needs a ride back. That's me, guys. I can't do it.
Got it.
Yeah. So at the end of it, I looked at the shoe, and I've used that shoe so much that when you play ball, you kind of drag. And so the sole was uneven.
Got it.
And so every time you're stepping, you're doing this.
Do you remember what shoe it was?
It was some old Nike trainers.
Okay.
Which would have been fine if the sole was even.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And it was bad. After that marathon, my foot was never the same.
Really?
Yeah, so the right foot I wouldn't be able to fit like normal shoes. It would always have to be like wide foot stuff. Yeah. But second marathon came back with a vengeance, bro.
Hey.
Bought some new some broken in running shoes.
Yep.
Finished it, and I was so it was just to say, gotta throw a finger at the first one.
Yeah. Would you ever do it again?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I had no idea you did that.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of like, maybe you should, maybe try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not fun.
Oh, bro. Yeah.
Some guys enjoy it.
I know.
And some guys run the whole. That's kind of nuts. Yeah.
That's wild. Crazy.
What about you? What's your collection of shoes?
Sneaker wise, yeah, man. I have similar trajectory. So did the skate shoes, and then went heavy into the Converse, Chucks, and Chucks was. I sat in that for a long time, mainly because it's just a classic shoe.
Classic.
The most uncomfortable shoe ever created, right? Like, let's be honest, they're not comfortable at all. But for whatever reason, the more busted they get, the more comfortable they get, and then I think that's one of the few shoes in existence that actually looks better with wear. You know, most shoes, if you get them that busted, you're like, got to get rid of them. But for whatever reason, you got your old Chucks that you can kind of your tried and true that you can always depend on. And, well, pretty much match with anything. You can kind of dress them up, dress them down, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
did you have the high tops?
I did. I did. I wore mainly low tops, but I did have high tops as well. And then from there, I mean, kind of got into Vans. I was wearing a lot of skate highs. I like that silhouette a lot.
Yeah.
Had some half cabs, and again, I wasn't on a skateboard or anything, just being a poser, but I just like the way they fit. You know, and at that time, you know, when I was wearing a little bit more baggy stuff, they kind of really fell nice. My pants fell good on that silhouette. And I'll be honest, I think it wasn't until I got into the current job that I really got more into shoes, believe it or not. Yeah, so, you know, I always had kind of a staple collection of just things that I would rotate. Chucks. I got into Clarks for a minute.
Clarks, really?
Wallabies, yeah. I was wearing a lot of Wallabies when I had the shop, and mainly because, again, had a lot of raw denim, you know, looks really good with that.
Yeah.
Fairly comfortable, you know, they got that crepe sole that I really, really enjoyed. And, you know, now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I should go to Waikele and pick up another pair. But yeah, those are kind of cool because you can get away with them being quote unquote dress shoes, right?
Yeah.
They're not, but they can, especially by Hawaii standards, that'll fall into dress, right?
Right.
For sure. So, after that though, yeah, man, I think I got into work and I was running Chucks for the first year or so, and just was not the biz. Being on my feet all day, running around with those guys, you know, changing out the insole and nothing really seeming to help, and then realizing everybody's got on Nikes, some nice shoes, and I was like, I gotta step this up, and then from there, I kind of went down a dark hole. Yeah, man, I was really, really into NMDs. That was probably my intro to Adidas, to be honest with you. Never really was a shell toe guy, even though that was really big back in the day. But, you know, really got more into the athletic Adidas stuff. And then from there, fell pretty heavy back into Nike. And Nike's always been kind of in my life. Never was a Jordan guy. You know, I got my first pair of Jordans as an adult, but didn't grow up with any of that stuff. You know, my Nikes, I think, were more, you know, basketball shoes, but whatever was really popular at the time, like the Barclays and everything, right? But yeah, for whatever reason, started wearing more running shoes or cross-training shoes because of work and because they were comfortable. You know, so I started noticing that was a thing. And then kind of lately just been on this New Balance train, man. And again, thank you very much for introducing me.
Yo, that's all you, bro.
No, man. I was like, hey, man, who's this guy? Who's this young guy dressing like a 50-year-old? That's Ray. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think what I like about the New Balance is comfortable, stylish, works with anything. And again, yeah, it's just something where for me, it was more function over fashion to begin with, because I just needed something to support my feet and being on my feet all day.
How fulfilling is it that when you find a piece that fills both roles?
Exactly. And that's why I'm on that 990 V6.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's not your jam, but for me, it works out because they're stylish and they're comfy for me.
They're stylish shoes. Yeah, I like them.
I like them a lot. Yeah. So I'm sitting here. I'm gonna see where it goes from here, but that's pretty much where I'm at sneaker wise. I got rid of a ton of shoes, mainly because I realized I wasn't wearing them. You know,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
You sitting on a big collection right now, or
no? I'm trying to get. Mainly for the reason that I can't fit them nicely anymore.
Okay.
And I think that's why I like the 990s, because it's wide enough. At least the V3s that I have. But the good thing with New Balances is that they offer the wide widths for every year or whatever they put out. Not the special edition ones, but you know, the tried and true gray. They always do that. But I'm not sitting on too much right now. I think the only ones that I'm still holding on to, which I tried to sell, was the Ultra Boost creams. The cream Ultra Boost. Which was like super popular back in the day. But yeah, those are the only ones that
the Ultra Boosts are. It's funny because if you go on like GOAT or like StockX now, the original colorway, people are trying to get a hold of those if you got those dead stock. But again, you know, you hold on to one thing for a prolonged period of time, it'll see its day, it'll die down, and it'll come back up at some point because people want it again, right? Especially if you didn't wear them, you know, like, so if you got anything on ice, it's a good time to kind of see what the prices are.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Accessories real quick.
Yeah, man.
Are you big on accessories?
Yes and no. I think that I had a moment where I was wearing a lot of like rings and stuff, and I don't know who I thought it was. I know that was a big thing, right? Like Asian guy was with their sterling silver jewelry.
I did the rings.
Yeah. Rings was a big one. You know, I've never been a watch guy until I got my Apple Watch, and then I take that back. I got into G-Shock, and then I think that when I got into the Apple Watch, that replaced that G-Shock. So I just wear my Apple Watch all the time. So I'm always with my Apple Watch on. It
so
feels
mostly
weird.
digital.
Mainly digital. Mainly digital. I think I've owned a couple of watches that analog that are nice, but you know, more dressy. But I just realized for me, I just kind of like the look of digital. I like just, you know, I don't know, it's easy for me to tell time too.
True.
But yeah, smartwatches, you know, I mean, just being tied in with technology, it's kind of nice. So for me, it's not more of a fashion piece, but more just, you know, just functionality, right?
True.
But as far as accessories go, man, I mean, you had earrings? Did you have earrings?
No.
You never had earrings?
Never had earrings.
I had both my ears pierced.
Really?
I pierced my own ears when I was in high school.
With the kit, huh?
No, bro.
The Claire's
ice and needles, bro. Gangster style, dude.
Bro.
Yeah, man.
Were you wearing your Chucks while you were doing that?
Probably. I just remember one day my mom was just like, "What are those?" And I'm like, "Oh."
Yo.
I think I told her they were fake, and then they just stayed with me.
Yo, that's crazy.
I had some crazy big hoops. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, man. Like, they were like these big sterling hoops. I'm probably sure I can find a photo of that one.
We'll need a photo.
I look pretty insane.
Need some receipts.
Yeah, man. And then it was super funny. I got my nose pierced. I think at the age of 37 years old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Wow. What made you do it?
Probably you, to be honest with you. Yeah, I was.
We're probably brothers.
Yeah, I know, man. It's Ray and I, we're just kindred spirits here.
Yeah.
No, I remember always wanting to do it. Always. And
what made you not do it? Was it people's?
Yeah, I was afraid my mom and dad would freak out. Number one. Kind of funny because, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm already tattooed and everything, right? But I was just like, oh, they're not going to like that for whatever reason. And then I think my girlfriend at the time definitely did not want me to do that. But I always wanted to do it. And then, funny story, you know, like I think after my girlfriend and I broke up, like I was like, YOLO, just do it, yeah. And then I got my nose pierced. And then, yeah, man, it was a thing. But I don't know. It's funny. Now being going to be 45, still got a nose ring. I have this running joke that I'll take it out when Lenny Kravitz takes out his nose ring. Right? Guy's like in his
funny.
mid 50s. I'm like, hey man, I got like 10 more years.
Yeah.
That guy's gonna get buried with his nose ring.
Yeah.
I'll probably be
I'm
that
safe.
I'll be that old guy with nose ring. So I don't know. You got your nose pierced, but how old were you?
Shoot. I forget, bro. It was probably like 2012, 13.
Okay. Oh,
it was
for a minute then.
It was a minute.
Yeah.
But I remember walking in my house and my dad was like, he just gave me the face, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Did he say, "Is that real"?
No, he knew I did it.
Yeah.
But he gave me the face.
You had your septum pierced too?
I did. Oh, I'm sorry. Septum was first.
Oh,
that was the one I walked in.
That one's super aggressive too, right?
Yeah, it is, but you can make it subtle.
Oh, because you can tuck it in.
You can tuck it. Well, you can tuck it in, and you can get a shorter one.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
Got
but
it.
It's there.
Yeah.
Nose. The ring was a little bit. I mean, I didn't want to do. To me, it was weird to have it both out.
Yeah.
So at some point, I just did the nose ring.
Gotcha.
It wasn't later. I mean, it wasn't far off after that though.
Got it.
Yeah, but one of my exes that she said that she mentioned that she liked nose rings. I didn't do it for that, but when I saw the person that she was talking about, I was like, yeah, that does look good. It was the singer of who did Coffee? This Copeland. It was kind of like an indie band.
Okay.
But the lead singer had a nose ring, and he was the only person in that time that I knew had a nose ring. No one was. I was like, this guy's.
You were so in the scene. I'm surprised you didn't get snake bites.
No, that was a little too aggressive for me.
I know, man.
Yeah. Did you have snake bites?
No. So yeah, it's so funny, right? I mean, again, tattooed. My tattoos are actually an accessory in my book, but I can. That's a whole nother subject of that. But for whatever reason, really got into tattoos. Never was into piercings. I had my ears pierced all the way through college, and then took them out. And then I just I don't know, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm not gonna have earrings anymore. They've closed up. But I decided to get the nose ring. I just like the look of it. I always did like the look of it, and again, kind of interesting. But to get it so late in life, but we're here.
We're here.
Also, shout out to this fly that seems to keep popping back and forth. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, we'll have him on a pod next.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be an intruder?
Who would you consider your fashion icons? Like, if you were to think about people that like just really, maybe not just influence your style, but just have like a notable fashion sense of style.
Ah, man, there he is, the fly.
Oh, for real? You're kidding me.
Anyway, we'll get him next time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Kanye sticks out.
Kanye, good one, for sure.
I mean, I don't know. He just, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I think because he's on a level that he is, he gets to start trends.
He definitely is a trendsetter.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of his current
style.
No,
yeah.
But I also know that you're gonna see people walking around barefoot in garbage bags pretty soon.
Oh yeah, pretty soon. Yeah. Guarantee.
For sure.
That's one icon that I think about.
Yeah, man.
Well,
that whole camp, honestly, like that Donda camp, you had Virgil come out of there, right? And then Jerry Lorenzo, another one. Part of that camp. So it's amazing what Virgil did in his short lifetime.
Yeah.
And then what Jerry's doing right now with Fear of God, phenomenal. He's moved everything over to Adidas, so he's with Adidas now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, not PacSun.
No, well, so the Essentials is still there. I think what he did with Essentials actually was genius, because he partnered with a company that's super accessible, right? So for like fashion snobs, they're like, oh, that's low tier.
Yeah.
But you basically made a price point that is affordable for anybody, for the most part.
Right.
That has decent quality goods that are staple. There's a reason why that's not in the main line, but Essentials, you can kind of wear it with anything, right?
Yeah.
I actually really like the Essentials line a lot. But it was funny when people heard PacSun, they're like, this is the end of it. And then he's made a fortune off of that line.
Yeah.
And there's a clear distinction because his Fear of God, the Fog line, oh man, price point's wild on those. Even the Adidas collab, like the outfit, I mean the pieces there are pretty expensive.
It's amazing that he's able to do those two tiers
Yep.
in business. That's very hard to do.
It is
Because one, you don't want to split your brand down to two tiers.
Yeah.
Because that just almost automatically tells the people, okay, this is lower quality.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's genius.
He did the opposite of what most well-known brands do. What most brands do is they have their inline collection, and then from there they'll have like a red label, right? A black label, purple label, whatever you want to call it, and then that's gonna be basically your top tier line where you got better materials, different fits, different silhouettes, and people are more willing to pay a price point for that.
Yeah.
So doing the opposite, having a high-end brand and having a lower end tier, that was actually pretty genius on his end.
Yeah. But you have to. I think you have to just be very strategic about it too.
Absolutely.
And
so you don't dilute the brand, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why I don't think people understand. Oh, I mean, maybe I don't even understand how hard that is to do.
Again, I think going back to marketing, when they first launched, again, Pakistan probably rubbed a lot of fashionistas the wrong way.
Yeah.
But then you had a lot of celebrities and a lot of people with influence in the clothing. And I think that was done very purposeful.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of care packages went out when they decided to roll that out.
Yes.
Just to say like, hey, we're wearing it. Now you can get this at your local mall, right?
Yeah. Even and when you talk about strategy, the photos that they did was very high end.
Absolutely.
And I noticed that. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's cool because he was able to partner with Pakistan Accessibility, but then they purposely marketed it in a high end way.
Absolutely. I mean, but look at the fits.
Cool.
Look at the fits and silhouettes, right? I mean, you got some really avant-garde stuff coming out of there where it's not like a traditional hoodie, not traditional sweatpants. Like, they fit very specifically, and that's kind of where like it's in line with Fog, like their Fear of God stuff versus their essentials. It's definitely a lower price point tier, but again, it's familiar, so it does look very distinctive.
Yeah.
Who else? Pharrell's a big one.
Pharrell,
obviously.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I would consider him closer to the eccentric type.
Yeah.
Loud but not loud, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So very unique.
I like watching his style evolution too. I mean, he skateboard P, right? So he dressed, and that was funny, right? Where you look at Pharrell and you look at guys like Tyler, the Creator, and Odd Future. They have that background where they kind of wear that their sense of fashion started from the skate culture.
Yeah.
It was really much more influenced by that culture in general. And then from there, they've kind of moved past that. But a lot of their sensibility kind of stays within that streetwear.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who don't know, streetwear was, like it's kind of thrown around right now, but that 100% came from the surf skate culture.
Yeah.
That's where it's derived from. But yeah, just in general, who's another one?
Well, cool story with Pharrell. I follow this photographer on YouTube. His name's Cardi, and he's been in the game for like a while now. When he did a shoot with Pharrell, he decided to bring him to a skate shop because he researched him and was like surfing, or it was like a bike shop or something, skateboard shop. And Pharrell asked Cardi like, "Yo, who chose this location?" And Cardi thought it was like gonna be maybe upset, but he was like, he told him, "Oh, that was me. I thought it would be cool to take you to." He was like, "Yo, man, this is my space. Like, I love this spot." And he ended up getting a bike there. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was a photo of him on I don't think it was a BMX, something like that. It was an iconic photo with Pharrell, but he kind of that's probably where his fashion kind of had a.
For sure. You think I think of Rihanna as being a fashion icon?
Oh yeah,
Rihanna's a huge one. I mean, you look at what she's been able to do with Savage Fenty, and like not just the makeup, but just in general, she does like the lingerie and underwear line. They're going into male stuff now.
Okay,
but it's pretty crazy what she's been able to do. But just as a fashion icon, absolutely top tier. John Mayer.
John Mayer.
John Mayer's a fashionable dude, bro.
He's big on watches.
Huge
He's
on watches.
Big on watches.
Huge
yeah.
on accessories.
Yeah.
Does a lot of collaborations, but he's actually very influenced by Japanese streetwear. A lot of his favorite brands are from Japan.
Wow.
Visvim being one of his. Visvim is, I think, one of his favorite brands.
Never heard.
Heavy into the Japanese stuff, really high end, expensive, but you know, the fits are very unique, and you wouldn't really put two and two together. But if you kind of see the way he looks like in recent years, you can see where it's the Japanese influence.
He does. I do see him in a lot of cardigans.
You ever see his Goros, the necklaces?
No.
They have the feathers and whatnot. Those pieces are really rare, super rare from Japan. But he's got quite a collection, so his accessory game is wild too.
Yeah, he does. I think he hosted a recent one, but talking watches with Hodinkee. Hodinkee's probably the biggest watch brand / company for watches. With like mechanical and just timepieces in general. But his episode, this first one, kind of had like millions of views.
Really?
Because no one really knew. Only people that knew John Mayer knew that he was into watches. But he brings in his collection and he talks about each piece and what he loves about it. And it's super cool because as a watch person, you get to see his likes and his, style. Stuff. Yeah, it's super cool.
Nice, man. Nice.
Talking watches.
Awesome. So, I mean, when you think about your current sense of fashion and style, where would you rate yourself, and what would you call if you had to put a label on it?
Shoot. Lately it's been more of comfortability.
Okay.
I've been slowly moving away from like graphic tees, because there was a vintage portion where it just blew up.
Absolutely.
Oversized tees, graphic stuff. Nice graphic stuff. I enjoy it. I just don't wear it as much anymore because it's normally baggy. And when I have to move around with Zozo and do more athletics stuff, it just doesn't make sense for me.
Gotcha.
So I've been coming back to the short shorts, and black shirts.
That vibes, man.
It's just easy.
Yep.
I don't have to think as much. Talking about brands, the best. I didn't want to get it, but it was the best option that I had, and it was a Lululemon. Black. It's called the 5-year tees. I don't know why they call it that, but
because you can wear it for 5 years.
5 years.
Hey.
I'm hoping so because it was $80 for two. Yeah, still. Yeah. It's not that bad, but it's been one of my favorite shirts. I had a merino shirt that was $80 for one. The problem with those is that it shrinks. So if you forget to hang dry, that thing's gonna shrink and it's not gonna fit as it was before.
Merino wool, right?
Merino wool, yeah.
It's supposed to be odorless. That's why.
Odorless, easy to wash, easy to dry, and this is more for like travelers.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's kind of my vibe right now, bro.
Good ones.
Just easy. Short shorts and a black tee. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I can't do it here because I'm sitting down and my love handles are gonna pop out. That's why I don't wear it here, guys. These are things I think about.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you.
What about you? Current style and what you would rate it at?
What I would rate it at? I'll give myself a 6 out of 10. I want to say that if there was a timestamp of when I was probably the most fashionable, I was the most heavily into clothes when I had my store. And then I think at that point, wearing a lot of the brands that we were carrying, really heavy into Japanese denim, talked about the Clarks and, button ups, layering, even though it was hot, wearing a lot of wool pieces and whatnot. I think that was probably when I was most fashionable. Yeah. But as far as my current, hey man, again, you named it, just comfort, right? Yeah. I think I'm always gonna be a local boy with the shorts, shorts and shoes. Don't wear slippers, but yeah, for the most part, a lot of it has just become uniform with work. So I kind of went away from the denim and got really heavy into cargos and whatnot, mainly because I can carry stuff. Oh, hey man, so I wear a lot of like I don't want to call it army surplus, but I'll shop at like tactical. I honestly like 511.
Hey, 511, bro.
511, that's my
Yeah.
jam, dude. I'll be. It's so funny. I'll buy all these pants from 511 and I'll get them tapered and
Yo.
kind of defeat the purpose, right? But again, gotta fit, right? You can be tactical and fashionable at the same time.
They have really nice pants.
Hey, man,
I got
love 'em.
mine tapered. I have one from them. It's good quality pants.
Good quality,
Good
lasts a
quality.
long time. You get them adjusted; they'll fit really well with your shoes. And then from there, black t-shirt, man.
Yep.
Pretty much graphic tees till I die. I think that's just kind of how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But really, at this point in my life, comfort. I think that's a
Comfort.
big one.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. But hey, man. Thank you for the discussion.
That was fun. We could definitely go more with this one.
And we probably will, to be honest with you. It's funny because fashion and styles and trends change. It'll be kind of curious to see if 2024 brings anything new to the table.
Yeah.
Show up wearing some different stuff in a few episodes. But,
Yeah.
always cool because I know this is something we always talk about,
Yeah.
And,
Very near and dear to our hearts.
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But hey, man, thank you everybody for
Thanks,
sticking
guys.
around. Again, one more time, shout out to my boy Alexander for these amazing stickers. If you guys listen this far and definitely want one, hit us up and we will get one to you.
Let's go.
All right.
Awesome. See you guys.
Till next time. Peace.